Lex Luthor recently decided that he was going to be a good man, be a Superman for the people. Well, he was also chosen by the planet of Apokolips to become the new Darkseid, to fulfill a prophecy. Well, it's time for the worlds of Superman and Lex Luthor to meet. It's time for Imperious Lex. On the burning planet of Apokolips, there have been wars about who will be the next to sit on Darkseid's throne after the Darkseid War resolved with his death. But while the battle of supremacy rages on, life goes on in the city of Metropolis. A group of robbers, all wearing superhero masks, calling themselves the Justice League of Armed Robbery, have just struck and they begin to make their escape. However, before they can get too far, two shadows fly over the getaway van and the robbers see real heroes, Superman and Lex Luthor. Lex smiles at Superman. Please, be my guest. And Superman tells him, no, after you. You were the one who got here first, after all. Lex laughs, ha ha ha, very well. Then he grabs a fire hydrant while Superman swoops down grabbing a lamppost. Before the robbers have a chance to react, Superman and Lex throw the fire hydrant and the lamppost into the front of the van, causing it to come screeching to a halt. They jump out and they open fire on Superman. And Superman asks, seriously? You do know melting guns out of an idiot's hand is a hobby of mine, right? He begins to fire his heat vision into their weapons, and Lex says, that's for him. Melting idiots' brains is more my thing. Lex shocks the men as Superman shouts to him, and Lex tells him, don't worry, I'm just being a tad dramatic. They were set to taser levels. Shortly after the police arrive, the two heroes go their separate ways, and as Lex flies off to his office building, he thinks to himself that some people were worried about him wearing the S on his chest. However, now he has become a hero to these people, a guardian born of the same planet as the people who walk it. Their love and need for him continues to grow by the day. And then there's a loud boom as a cage forms around Lex's face. The Prophet and Adora, citizens of Apokolips, state that a glorious age is about to begin. They have missed their god of Apokolips, and it is time for him to fulfill his destiny. With that, there's another loud boom, and the three disappear through a boom tube. Back over with Superman, he whistles as he flies into his apartment, noticing that John is getting ready to go out, and he asks him, where are you going, son? John tells him that he was gonna go do some super stuff with Damian, and Superman tells him that he's thinking that maybe they should go hit a movie and grab some dinner. Come on, it'll be fun. John tells him, okay, but only if I can go out superheroing tomorrow night. And Superman tells him, deal. Lois then calls out that she'll pick the movie and they can pick dinner. And at the same time, Superman says Italian, but John says Chinese. Superman laughs and pulls out a coin, stating, fine, we'll flip for it. And as he tosses the coin, him and John begin to hear ringing voices in their heads. The voice says that if they can hear this, Superman is needed. Please meet on the southeast LexCorp balcony immediately. Lois gets up from her desk asking what's wrong, and Superman says that it was a message from Lex. John was able to hear it because the frequency was directed at Kryptonians in Metropolis. Superman continues getting dressed, stating that they're still gonna go out as a family. Lex has been sending out these signals for weeks. Last time it was to show off his chest shield. I'm pretty sure it's nothing. It can wait until I've taken my family out for the night. Later, after seeing their movie, Superman, Lois, and John all begin walking home talking about their favorite scenes when suddenly, a group of Lex bots appears before them. A recording of Lex says, there is no need to fear. This hologram is pre-recorded, seeing as you ignored my previous transmission. These Lex bots are here to escort you, forcefully if needed, to the location requested. Will you follow the directive and come peacefully? Superman tells the Lex bots that whatever he's gotten himself into, he knows that he can't leave Metropolis. And the Lex bot tells him to please reply with yes or no only. Superman takes off his glasses, simply stating, no. And the Lexbox says that he has responded in a negative tone, which leaves him no choice. Both Superman and John begin to take off their jackets, and Superman says, ready, kiddo? And John tells him, you bet! As they begin to finish changing, they begin to take down the Lexbots with ease, working together as father and son. And just as the last one falls, a small cube appears. And Superman says that he's starting to think that Lex's invitation earlier was more of a command. The cube begins to fold open, creating a giant cage, and then the box is shut, trapping Superman, Lois, and John inside. Superman tells Lois and John that this thing is communicating with a mother box, which means that they're gonna take off any second. Suddenly, there's a loud boom, and the box begins to spark and light up. Inside, the energy begins to reach out, grabbing onto the three of them, and in a flash, the three find themselves all separated, each alone at a different part of Apokolips. Lois hides as she hears the sounds of people passing, and in front of her is Granny and the Furies, a tribe of women who are firm believers that Darkseid himself still lives and will once again rule. As Granny passes, Lois begins to step out of the shadows to move, and then she's suddenly hit in the back of the head, with everything going black. Elsewhere, Lex tells the Forgotten People that he is in a rather forgiving mood, so he'll dismiss them for ripping him from his homeworld against his will. Ardora tells him that their extreme measure will not be taken lightly. Lord Luthor. Chaos rules and his iron will is needed. Lex says that the children of Earth are weaker than all of you here. They must have constant care and leadership, and Ardora yells, as do they. You made a promise to us and we expect you to honor your sacred words. You are the embodiment of the prophecy. I will sacrifice my own blood if it means that you take the throne. Lex looks out at the balcony stating that he will not be spilling their blood today. He was thinking of spilling his own blood. Now draw your sword. Ardora holds out her sword, and as Lex grabs the blade, he pulls his hand down, creating a cut. And then he asks, does the scripture state that your god bleeds? The prophet tells him no. The chosen one is impervious. And Lex then says, do I look impervious? And the prophet tells him no. The prophet then begins to recite the scripture stating that the hero would come rescue them and he would be born of Earth and come from the city of Metropolis. He was an orphan, a humble son of farmers. He will be a seeker of truth and the embodiment of justice. Lex tells him, that is right, but I am not that man. Ardora and the others begin to ready their swords, all shouting that the false god will have his head spiked on a rampart for all to see. Lex begins to back away, telling them that he understands their anger, but he has brought them their true salvation. Suddenly there's a booming sound and Superman appears, with Lex kneeling before him, telling them, behold, this is Superman, the true god of Apokolips. Back with Lois, she begins to open up her eyes, and one of the Furies, Harriet, says, greetings. Follow us, yes? You are now a prisoner of the female Furies, and you will be enslaved. Behind them, another of the Furies, named Lashina, cracks her whip on the chained slaves, and Lois asks, what is going on here? Lashina cracks her whip again, hitting Lois, telling her, be quiet. And Lois glares back with Lashina telling her, that determined look. I will enjoy breaking your spirit. Granny then calls out that they must move. Darkseid awaits their care and attention. Another Fury pushes Lois, telling her to move, but before they can start walking, there's a tremor, and a giant dredge worm bursts out of the ground. Granny shouts that this one must be lost. These worms usually strike in groups. The worm releases a wave of molten bile that begins to burn anyone that it touches, including the slave that Lois is chained to. The blast then also knocks the Fury that pushed Lois down, causing her to drop her gun. Lois grabs the gun and begins to shoot at the worm, and the Fury gets back up on her feet, tackling Lois, telling her, no one touches my weapon. Just as the Fury gets ready to shoot Lois, the worm sends out another blast, burning the Fury where she stands. Lois grabs the gun again, shooting her chains, and she goes back to firing at the worm. Most of the gun's fire has no effect, but Lois tells everyone to aim for the eyes, and soon everyone concentrates their fire on just that. Eventually, the gunfire hits its mark, shooting out the worm's eyes, and it falls to the ground defeated. While everyone stops to catch their breath, Granny looks at the body of the fallen Fury and takes her armor, telling Lois, you have earned this. You have the heart of a Fury. Later that night, the Furies feast on the meat of the dredge worm, and Lois stands alone looking out across the land. Granny walks up, eating a shank of meat from her sword, telling Lois, you fought well today. You were relentless. The Furies are orphans, family. Now eat with us. Also remember, nothing is more important than family. Lois takes a chunk of meat, biting into it, telling her that she knows. Elsewhere, John finds himself surrounded by a pack of men riding giant dogs, asking, can anyone tell me what is going on here and where I am? One of the men shouts, that's going to be you, on a spit, across the nearest fire pit. John tells him, hang on, can't we just talk about this? I'm from Earth. But a man shouts, you are food! As the man lifts his axe, John burns the axe out of his hand, and he tells him, no, I'm leaving. John begins to run away from the pack as they chase after him, and he says that he can't believe he's gonna say this, but I would rather be in school right now. A short while later, John checks around and thinks that maybe he finally lost them, as well as losing himself. He then begins to smell something good, like food, and he begins to climb up a hill to see what's being cooked. He looks over the ledge and he sees the people that he just got away from now roasting one of the giant dogs on a spit. Down on the camp, a group of men stand around a pack of chained up dogs, stating that it's wrong for them to do this, but if they don't eat the dogs, then they're gonna starve to death. One of the men raises his blade to the dog, and John tells him that he can't believe that he's actually doing this, and he jumps down into the camp, firing his heat vision. He begins to hit the men, and then he frees the dogs from their chains, telling them to run. But rather than leave, the dogs all turn to their owners and begin to fight with John, until finally John blows them all away. John then looks back at the dogs, telling them, it's okay, but there is one more large dog in the cage growling at him. He tells the dog, please be a good mutant doggy and don't bite my face off, okay? And he breaks the lock off. The door swings open and the dog leaps at him, licking his face. The puppies then all run over to the freed dogs. John begins to pet one of the puppies, telling them, I guess now I'm not the only lost pup, huh? Well, if only you guys could sniff out my parents. One of the dogs leaves and returns with a stick, and John grabs it and asks, "Does this mean you're gonna help me?" He lifts a stick, which is actually a spear, and the dogs howl, as John says, "Sweet." Back with Superman, he lifts Lex into the air, telling him, "You've gone too far this time. That S is supposed to mean something." And Lex tells him, "Yes, and thanks to me, it means something on Apokolips as well." The people here see it and they think of their true savior, someone who has come that will bring them hope. "I can hardly blame you for wanting to reject this particular burden, but we can't run from this." Superman tells him, "I'm not running, but I won't go back until I find my..." And Lex asks him, "Your what? Did someone else come here with you?" Before Lex can finish his question, both Superman and Lex are shot out of the sky and they come crashing down into the ground. Superman checks on Lex and he sees that he's knocked out. Hopefully he can, but then a large hand grabs Superman by the throat asking, "Hope?" And Kalibak lifts both Superman and Lex shouting, "Hope is anathema on Apokolips." A short while later, Kalibak orders his men to increase the power of the Chaos Cannon and get ready for the next search party. "We're going to reach the planet's core for Darkseid!" Kalibak's men state that even Darkseid himself couldn't stand the heat from the planet's core. "It's madness to keep firing into the core like this." Kalibak shouts for his men to be quiet and continue. "Glory awaits the men who descended to the pits." Just then a flare erupts from the pit and Superman tells Kalibak that he must listen to his men. "What you're doing could have disastrous consequences." Another voice calls out that the Furies approach, and with them is Lois. Granny then shouts that Kalibak has brought shame upon his house. "They are here to restore Darkseid's order." Kalibak yells, "I will find my father and..." But before he can finish, Granny punches him, telling him, "I've had enough of this nonsense." The two factions begin to clash, and Lois runs over to where Superman is being held and begins to free him. And once free, he shoots over, punching Kalibak, the force which throws him up and over the Chaos Cannon. Kalibak begins to climb up onto the cannon, stating, "You are all against me! You all want my father's throne, and if I can't have it, no one can!" He pulls the lever on the cannon's power and it charges up and it begins to fire into the planet's core. As the hole is punctured into the core of the planet of Apokolips, the flames of Apokolips go out, something that was thought to not be possible on this planet. As everyone begins to get up from the massive blast, Kalibak picks Superman up, telling him, "The planet core has been vented. My father will be found. No more prophecy. No more Kryptonian." Lois runs up shouting no, and she punches Kalibak and he looks over back at her. Just then there's a howl and everyone turns asking, "What is that?" And along the ridge, a shade of a dog rider appears, and then with them more dogs appear. Kalibak is laughing, stating that there's only one rider, and he himself looks like a pup. All of the dogs begin to charge down, and that lone rider, John, holds his spear shouting, "Let my mom and dad go!" Within seconds, a total war between the tribes of Apokolips erupts. Kalibak versus the dog packs, Granny versus the parademons, and Superman versus the Furies. Blows are exchanged between everyone, and in the middle of it, Kalibak and Granny make their way to see who will be the one to rule the throne. A parademon swoops down, grabbing Lex's body, but before it can get far, John and his dogs ride through, attacking that parademon. Harriet lunges for Lois, telling her that she knew that she was never really a Fury. "You never had the strength for it." And Lois cracks Harriet in the head with her spear, telling her that she's sorry that she feels that way, and she begins to single-handedly take out the remaining Furies. Superman grabs a parademon, smiling, asking, "I never told you how glad I was to see your back, right?" And Lois sticks her spear into the parademon, telling him, "Say it again." Meanwhile, back with Kalibak, he diverts his attention and begins to run through John's dog pack, and he reaches out, grabbing Lex by the leg. He shouts that he will end this now by throwing this man into the abyss, and just as Lex's body is thrown, a hook shoots out, wrapping around his suit, suspending him in the air. Another explosion goes off, knocking Kalibak back from where he stands, and then he falls into the pit, leading to the planet's core. When everyone looks up, they see the Forgotten People, and the Prophet shouts, "All hail Lord Superman. This pit will be Luthor's fate. The judgment is Superman's. What say him?" Superman looks up and burns the cables holding Lex and then catches him. Another man grabs Granny, yelling that she will not escape Superman's judgment, and Granny tells him to just kill her and be done with it. Superman shouts, "She lives too." And the Prophet asks if that's a wise decision. And Superman tells him, probably not, but it's the right thing to do. Mercy is for those who are in need of it. The Prophet begins to tell Superman that mercy is a foreign concept to many of them here, and Ardora says that she must admit it's an alluring concept that she is slightly grasping. The Prophet then says that there is no point in fighting the prophecy. It says that Superman will lead Apokolips. Superman tells them that he has his own world and family to take care of. What they are asking him is, Ardora stops him, telling him that she knows that they are not the first to receive similar justification, but are they also so far beyond any hope? Superman sighs and tells her that she's right. No one, not even those here in Apokolips, are beyond hope. I accept. And so the mantle of Superman is hung through the halls, and the rooms are filled with chants, "Hail Superman! Hail Superman!" Superman tells the citizens of Apokolips that he may not be here, but he will leave behind an ember of liberty and hope, so that they all may share the same flame as he does on Earth. He lights a torch and he passes that flame to Lois and John, who then pass the flame to everyone in the halls. There will be no more fighting between the tribes of Apokolips, and everyone will learn to work with one another, so that in their new future, hope will be inextinguishable. Superman then tells Ardora that he has a very solemn duty for her. She must assemble the governors of the regions, and together they must find a way to lead those in need. Ardora says that she is just a soldier, and Superman laughs, stating, "Some of the finest leaders are. I know you will do your best." He hands her a small boom tube cube, telling her that this will allow us to remain in contact. "Rest assured, I will always be there to answer the call." And with that, Superman picks up Lex's body, and him, Lois, and John all teleport back to Earth. The next morning, Lex wakes up at his desk, still in his suit, walking out to his balcony looking over Metropolis. He smiles, stating that he is home, and his shadow appears with Superman floating down before him. Lex says, "Well, that's a surprise. You voluntarily came to see me, which is good because there is something I must get off my chest. Whenever the League calls, you answer. A cat is stuck in the tree and you're there, but when I, your so-called partner, is marooned on another planet, you don't even show?" Superman begins to speak, but Lex talks over him, yelling, "I bled for this city and this blasted S that I wear. How is my sacrifice repaid? With suspicion and disrespect. Superman, who is so rich with mercy for everyone, still refuses to trust me." Superman tells him that it's dangerous to trust a hypocrite. What he did on Apokolips proves it. Lex then digs his fingers into his chest armor, asking, "Dangerous? So be it." He rips the S emblem off his chest, burning it as it falls to the ground. Superman stares at him and then he flies off. "Be seeing you soon, Luthor." All Lex can do is stand there and laugh as the S burns away on the ground. There we have it, the beginning of what I'm gonna call the downfall of Lex. We know that eventually he has to become evil again, but honestly, I'm kind of sad that it has to happen. This new good Lex, this redeeming himself Lex, is something that I've really been enjoying in DC Rebirth and even in the New 52, following the journey of Lex Luthor from villain to hero to member of the Justice League to now Superman of the people. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and follow us on Discord at our community to talk about video games, comic books, and pretty much everything. We talk about everything there. There's a lot of weird talks. Weird talks happening. Yeah. I'll see you over there.